me quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious.
Alright, that's enough. Shut up already!
I wanna be rich, famous, and powerful.
I said shut up! Every time I see this thing's face, that song comes to mind and gets stuck in my head. And now I'll be stuck in yours too, you're welcome. Bit of a different intro for once, but anyway, before I get started with this video, a quick reminder there will be a spin-off to this one that I will link down below that will be available only on Alltech for reasons that will become apparent as you watch it. But in case you haven't noticed, Elon Musk buying Twitter has caused quite the stir, a reverberation in the digital sphere, so to speak. It's very much a scientific observation. For every action, there is a reaction, and the normal reaction has been to and the rich, powerful, and well-connected to shit the bed. And no, I'm not talking about Amber Heard. And by the way, yes, I know there is an obvious dad joke in there. Reaction, haha, very funny, fuck off. But anyway, Twitter has been most amusing, and yes, I am presently on it. I will link to it down below in the pinned comment. Thank you, Elon. A South African has ensured another South African is on the platform. Brilliant. And yes, I do post spicy things. Within reason, of course. I've already had some encounters that landed me in the naughty corner, and I will defend my actions on both. One was for calling someone a retard after they said capitalism invented the very concept of race. The word retard was invented specifically for people who say stupid shit like that. And the other one was some demented bellend who said they enjoyed edging their girlfriend's male genitals. And I was scolded because telling them that's a dude, you're blowing a guy, that's apparently hate speech. Someone should point out to Twitter, by that logic, if I am violating the piety of the Rainbow Coalition's demented worldview, their own algorithm is also homophobic. But the reaction has nonetheless produced some hilarious stupidity, especially by one I've torched already, John Idearola, formerly of TYT, the saltiest man, clearly the president of the I Want to Be Elon Musk So Fucking Bad fan club. Now, if you've watched my stuff before, you know I am a spoon of ruthless simplicity. However, I will always do my best to be an honorable and fair gentleman and listen to those who disagree with me, especially if they're stupid. It gives me a greater quantity of ammo to beat them with. So John came out trying to debunk the shadow banning arguments some right-leaning users posted about, given that some of them, their follower counts went up the day after Elon bought Twitter by several thousands. Some got more followers in a day than they'd usually get in a whole month. Now his explanation was that it's merely people joining the platform. Now, let's be kind, people, and grant John his absurd claim that shadow banning doesn't exist, even though Twitter's own staff about 4 years ago openly admitted they in fact do that, and say, yeah, it's people joining the platform, while many left-leaning people also lost several thousand followers as their own ilk decided to be thin-skinned pigeons and fucked off. Now, does that not tell you there's more conservative people overall, and maybe that the left are not quite in fact so radical, given that many more conservatives joined than the lefties left? Or maybe I'm being optimistic and the ones that remained are masochistic who want to get their asses torn into pieces by the right. But speaking of other reactions, you may remember several years ago there was talk of Section 230, the publisher versus platform debate. Obviously, it being a product of the government ensures absolutely fuck all gets done because bureaucracy is an excuse for wasting the taxpayers' money as the machine bloat grinds to its screeching halt. Up until Elon Musk buys Twitter, then the machine jumps into action like a fucking bull taking a cattle prod to the nads, as Peppermint Patty was asked about it mere hours after the deal went through. But again, for every action there is a reaction, and now part of the apparatus is, or rather will be, in the hands of a South African madman. Now suddenly something must be done to stop him, because how dare people actually share information? Which brings us to a conundrum. The very concept of democracy can function only if your population isn't full of complete imbeciles. Just gonna pause for a moment to reflect on the current state of society and let that one sink in. There we go. And more information is a required variable to make one wiser. So, if the state is actively working against a mechanism that facilitates the spread of information, well, that might lead one to an uncomfortable realization. Either democracy isn't functioning as its simping proponents claim it's supposed to, or it is, given history is full of authors that have stated democracy is the road that leads to tyranny. Shame our society is too fucking stupid to read them. But as usual, the truth is stranger than fiction, especially when it's used as a fucking operational manual, given that the US government has decided to spawn what it's calling the Disinformation Governance Board. So there's a reason people think it's akin to the Orwellian nightmare, the Ministry of Truth in Orwell's 1984, the DGB, otherwise known as Disguising Government Bullshittery. And as Lauren Boebert helpfully pointed out, this agency will be established not under the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, but rather the executive DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. You only do that if you plan on having an enforcement mechanism. Now that strikes me as a tad peculiar, and that's putting it mildly, and I've not seen anyone else bring this up because everyone talking about this is either American or speaking on it from their perspective, and I'm looking at this from an outsider's perspective. Twitter has international users, and the United States has foreign policy aspirations, naturally, and now looks poised to use an agency to stifle dissent that attempts to interfere with the whims and wishes of the state. So, are foreign users liable to be subjected to an iron fist of the DHS should they speak about issues that affect the United States? The DHS is what you go through if you travel to the US. So are non-US citizens to potentially end up on some kind of a list before they even enter the country? Because I don't like where that is going. Now, very little is known about all of this, how positions are picked, what the job entails, or frankly, anything at all. Except that it's obviously going to be used to crush dissent. Mayorkas, the useless git, came out and said, "Oh, Americans won't be spied on." Yeah, right. This is the same idiot who said they inherited a broken immigration system, yet somehow has seen thousands more people pass through the borders of the United States, entering the country illegally, and then they get distributed throughout the country in the dead of night. You can fuck off. The reaction strikes me as odd because the bloody censorious apparatus of the state is already there. It's been there for a long time. Go back to the 19th century and you'll see examples of it. Might not be as sophisticated, mind you, but the will was always there. Go look up the CPI under Woodrow Wilson, the Committee of Public Information, an agency which was established by executive order. Wilson was a wartime president, making the world safe for democracy. Sound familiar? Are you starting to see the parallels yet? If you don't, you should watch more of my videos. Now, the only thing we know for sure is the face of this agency is going to be this demented wench, who, speaking of Woodrow Wilson, became a global fellow for the Woodrow Wilson Center in 2017. I'm sure that's just a massive fucking coincidence. What she is known for is the singing, repeatedly getting misinformation incorrect, though as you can probably guess that's a feature, not a bug, has refused to apologize for getting things wrong repeatedly, damn little desire to start now, has no idea what the hell she is talking about as she wanders the joint acting like an entitled spoiled bitch and is hopelessly unqualified for a job that shouldn't even exist in the first place. Meaning, she is just fucking perfect for a job in the public sector. Now can you take a guess who is obviously to blame for all of this? Trump. Because according to that bleating redhead, the framework for this is but a continuation of work done under the Trump administration. Now why the hell these people don't continue those Trump policies that actually worked, well, we all know why. Because the elite hate you and don't give a fuck what you think. Up until you open your mouth within an earshot of another human being hearing your opinion, then evidently they give a massive fuck. Now, whether or not I believe that wench, or if she's telling the truth, which I doubt, is really neither here nor there. But there is something to this I want to bring up, and this is a fundamental problem with democracy. And for all the Yanks who say, oh, America's not a democracy, America's a constitutional republic, do you have voting? Do you elect your representatives? Yes, you do. So you have democratic elements in your republic, so shut up, twats. And I'll use Trump for this example, because Trump can kiss his own ass and boast about this all damn day. But the fact of the matter remains, Operation Warp Speed was the worst thing about his entire administration, and I'll tell you why. When it comes to the nature of the current system, what one group professes to want to create for benevolent purposes, the other one will use for nefarious purposes. And should the benevolent one get back into power, will they make it smaller or dismantle it? Fuck no. What you will get are attempts to reshape it. Bullshit excuses like reforms instead. And so the bureaucracy continues to grow and grow until it's the size of the damn Leviathan. Because here is the skinny. You can't vote the state smaller because democracy does not produce responsible government. That is not a fault of the system, it is a feature of it. Remember Biden saying, oh, who's going to be the first to take it? And Harris saying, if Trump tells them to take it, they won't take it. But the second they attain power, nothing about the damn thing changes, except that now it's their evil mitts under throttle. And then they try to use the full force of the federal government. And did it work? No! More people died. But who gives a fuck about that? Because Big Pharma's wallets were stuffed full of the taxpayers' money. And does anyone give a shit? No! Because we're too busy blowing more of the taxpayers' fucking money on the war the United States pushed the Russians into. And yes, I said that. Fuck you if you disagree with me. I always find it amusing if I tell people I'm a monarchist who favors an absolute monarch. And the response is some horrified gut reaction to tyranny. And I always think, are you kidding me? The absolute rulers of the past, those erring on the side of tyranny, they would be gobsmacked, green with envy, if they saw the size of the state apparatus in a modern-day democracy. The bureaucracy of today wields a power they would never be able to conceptualize, even in their wildest dreams. And we could see that in action with the coup. Look how quickly the entire apparatus of the Western Hemisphere was able to emulate much of the Chinese response in a disturbingly short amount of time. Before I go, quick reminder to check out the spin-off video down below, so let's enjoy the Twitter circus while we still can before the fucking retarded state decides to be a complete bellend and ruin it. Oh, for fuck's sake.